Hi, I'm PJ Elias, Vice President of the local I-60. Today I'm joined by Kevin Burkhart, President of the local I-60, and we want to get you up on current events of what has transpired in the last couple days, weeks, months, and get everybody up to date on what's going on. So, Kevin, we've had some major developments in the last, I would say, a week. So what is the biggest development that we have that was finally approved today?
So the big thing for today is that today's important because the Regional Director of the National Labor Relations Board here in Phoenix approved a settlement agreement between Rural Metro, the Labor Board, and our union to resolve a lot of open issues.
What was the biggest open issue that you see in your mind that was resolved with this agreement?
We've had a lot of issues with negotiations with the company at the bargaining table really over the last year or so, which has led to us not having a contract. Some of those tactics that the company was using to make sure that we were put in a disadvantage were brought before the Labor Board. They found some merit, and a long process of getting a trial set up, going through all those motions. And finally, the company decided to settle those, so we started those talks, and really this is a kind of a conclusion to all the bad faith surface bargaining, the illegal provisions in contracts, and a lot of the issues that we've discussed at union meetings over the last couple of months.
So a lot of you out there understand that there was a hearing scheduled for tomorrow, which would be June 16th, at the National Labor Relations Board office in Central Phoenix. That has been canceled.
Yep.
So there's no need for everybody to come out for that. So will we send out a copy of this settlement? How will that go out to the membership?
So we'll be sending out our own copy just to make sure everyone has it. And part of the settlement agreement is that Rural Metro has to post it at every single one of their locations throughout Arizona. So everyone should see it when they clock in and out of work and when they look at any bulletins, boards, or announcements at work. But just to make sure that that happens and people know what the real settlement agreement is, we'll be sending it out to all of our members as well.
In the past, every time we've had a settlement or there's been a poster that Rural Metro has had to post, we have mailed a copy to members' homes. We'll probably do that this time. Just so everybody knows, the hearing tomorrow is canceled. This agreement was brought to us. Basically, Rural Metro tried to postpone this hearing again, and they appealed a couple charges against us. Those charges were denied.
Yeah.
And this settlement is kind of out of that. Those were denied. The I-60 has claimed no responsibility in any of that. So what do we do now? Where do we go from here?
Well, so just to recap, we actually met with the judge for a pre-hearing and a pre-trial conference last week. Part of that was just a normal routine. Before a trial, there's always conferences to make sure both sides know what's going on, if there are any issues that we can address beforehand. And part of that, the company filed a motion saying that the trial's coming up, we would like it pushed back for a couple of reasons. One of those was that they had filed some complaints against the local I-60, and they wanted those complaints to be added into theirs and just have basically one free-for-all fight in a courtroom. This isn't the first time they've asked a judge to do that. All their other requests have been denied, and this judge, for this case, denied this one as well. And on top of that, the Division of Appeals in Washington, D.C. Was reviewing the cases that they filed against us and agreed with the local region, saying that there's no merit, these are baseless allegations and nothing more than that, and denied all those claims. So it was kind of a 3 strikes you're out, and the next morning the company decided it was time to talk settlements.
So that was worked on all basically Thursday, Friday. The regional director today approved the final version. Everything's done. So in that agreement, we've had an issue in Fountain Hills.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about that? Kind of give us the overview on that.
Yeah, so Fountain Hills, we've provided service to the town, and good service at that. We've done a great job there with response times, with customer service. Every aspect of our job has been done well with our I-60 members in Fountain Hills. Unfortunately, though, some external forces, including Rural Metro, have tried to push us out of there a couple times in the past. This time, they let us know a few months ago that that was their contemplated change, to use their word. we did keep trying to negotiate. Unfortunately, Rural Metro wouldn't come to the table seriously. They would like to pretend they were coming to the table, but when it's time to talk, they didn't want to discuss it. And instead, they wanted to discuss contract proposals. So ultimately, they just went ahead and did what they wanted to do, which unfortunately for them, you can't do that. So we filed an unfair labor practice charge. We had to hand over all of our evidence and do affidavits with the labor board. The company had to do the same thing, and it was decided that there was enough merit that a charge might be issued in this case. And Rural Metro, after their kind of 3 strikes you're out earlier in the week, decided that they wanted to settle that. And basically the settlement is they should not have made any changes to Fountain Hills without us being a part of that discussion and part of that decision. They felt that they didn't need to have as part of that decision, just deal with the effects of it. So it got added into this whole mess.
So Rural Metro still needs to sit down with the local I-60 and negotiate.
Yes, they need to sit down and negotiate, but as part of the settlement agreement, we gave up the ability to negotiate the decision, and now we're just negotiating the effects of that decision. But in exchange for giving up kind of our fight for the decision, we were able to get what's called a transmarine benefit for those employees. Basically, each one of those employees is getting roughly 128 hours of pay to compensate them for having their job taken away and given to another union.
Okay. And then the next issue, we had also filed a charge over the blackout days that were sprung on everybody. If you've worked here long enough, you understand the blackout days and how they affect you. This round of blackout days that we're speaking of came out of the blue. The union did not have a chance to basically discuss this blackout day or set of blackout days. So what did that entail in the settlement?
So in 2011, a few of the members of the union's leadership team met with the company and tried to figure out what a blackout day was, how we would handle it, and ultimately we all agreed that blackout dates would be the company holidays that are in our collective bargaining agreement, like Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, Memorial Day, those holidays that we get paid for. And if there were any major market events, we would negotiate those basically on a case-by-case basis, come to the union, say, hi, NASCAR is coming up next month, we're short-staffed, we're really worried there's going to be some issues, can we make that a blackout day for the reasons 1, 2, and 3, and if it made sense, it can become a blackout day and we can have some discussions. Unfortunately, the company decided to not follow that process, and in March, they decided to make a weekend a blackout day just because.
Because staffing levels are so horrible.
Yeah, we were having a lot of issues with people not working on the weekends and not being staffed on the weekends, and it was a major issue to where they were even giving out $100 to come to work above and beyond, and that kind of stopped as well, and that didn't really help the problem. So they made it a blackout day and required people to bring in doctor's notes if they're out on that Friday or Saturday.
So part of this settlement, Rural Metro is going to reimburse those individuals that were basically displaced for quite a few days and had to go get a doctor's note, period.
Yep, so there's 2 parts to it. One is that if there's any cost that you incurred to go see the doctor, so with our great health care insurance, you don't have to pay a whole lot, just maybe $102 to get a doctor's note to come back to work when you weren't really needed to do that. But they're being reimbursed. We had some people that paid 80, 90, even 100, some $100+ just to get a doctor's note. So the company's been ordered to pay that back as part of the settlement agreement. And if you had to miss extra days of work past when you were sick, so if you were sick Saturday but you're going to come back to work Sunday or Monday, you didn't have a doctor's note, you're out in a couple more days, anytime you missed, the company has to pay you back your back pay.
So if you're out of work for a while, you call out some consecutive days, Rural Metro has the legal right to require a doctor's note.
Yeah.
But in this case, it was a group-wide, system-wide, basically bargaining unit-wide issue. And because we didn't bargain over it or anything like that, the board saw a problem with it.
Yes.
And so this is the remedy to take care of those individuals that were forced to do that. Anything else that's going on that we should talk about?
We've concluded a lot of the issues relating to contract bargaining. The biggest part of it has been the pension plan, and the pension plan was kind of wrapped up into some of these settlement talks, and that the company can no longer come to the table trying to propose settlement issues about the arbitration, whether it's nullifying it, voiding it, changing it, ignoring it, any of the things that they've proposed. So it's going to change the kind of direction of negotiations and change our approach and the company's approach, because now the biggest roadblock to getting a contract has been taken out of the mix, and now we can actually focus on getting the contract done rather than focus on defending a pension plan that the company unilaterally changed, reduced people's benefits. We arbitrated it, we won, they refused to implement it. It's been well over a year now and they still haven't implemented it. In fact, we've had to seek enforcement in a federal court. We actually have some exciting news on that too.
And we'll bring that news to you as soon as we can confirm it. And it's pretty good news for everybody. What are some of the other highlights of the agreement that does affect the bargaining negotiations team also with that?
Basically, the company has to come back to the table in good faith, and now they're held to a standard. And because there was a lot of finding of fact and merit, and through this investigation process with the Labor Board, the settlement agreement has a list of provisions of things that they will and won't do. They won't frustrate the bargaining process. They will actually work towards an agreement rather than impasse, and a few other things. So that's going to get them back to the table and hopefully get them to focus on getting a contract with the I-60, since it's been about 3 years since we've had one. It's also going to hold them accountable, because in that settlement agreement, if they don't do what they agreed to do to settle, they get to basically skip the judge's portion of this and the trial and hearing and go right to the Labor Board for an enforcement order. So it's basically giving up your right to a trial for the most part by having what's called default language. And if you default on a loan, you get held accountable. If you default on a settlement agreement, the government can now hold them accountable by agreeing to that language.
Now, I understand the next negotiations is set for middle of July.
Yeah, the company, they lost their chief negotiator, who was an attorney, and because of that, we're being told that the guy that's handling it, his calendar is quite busy, and the next availability isn't till the middle of July. And the other unions are getting the same information as well, so it's not just us.
Yet our team is ready to negotiate right now.
Yep.
And we have been for quite a while.
We actually proposed some dates earlier, I believe the end of May and early June, that they were not available. They were busy for 2 weeks. We proposed some dates for week 3, which was actually last week, and they're not available for that either. So the next open dates are in mid to late July.
So our next union meeting is scheduled for June 25th.
Yep.
Up here in Phoenix at the UFCW, and in Tucson at the FOP.
Yep.
Is that right? Okay.
I believe it's 9 a.m. in Phoenix and 6 p.m. in Tucson.
Perfect. Anything else that we need to talk about? I mean, this is a pretty big win.
It's a big win. I think we all hope for a different image of accountability when you see somebody go to court. You know, we all kind of want to see some type of punishment, but in reality, this is a big win for labor. It makes the company be held accountable for any future actions, which is what we need them to do. We need to get back to the table in good faith from the company side, and this helps that along. It also takes care of the people in Fountain Hills that were displaced in their jobs, and you know, it's not a win for everyone. It's a win for a small group of people, but getting basically 2 weeks worth of pay for the hassle is not a bad settlement. The blackout dates, people that had to go spend their money to go get a physician's note when they didn't really need to bring one in, or missed time away from work and are now struggling financially, getting that back pay is a huge impact for them. So it's a win for labor, a little bit different than having a trial and having a judge order it. But in reality, when we win court cases, it's appeal after appeal. 2 years ago, we announced that we won longevity, and here we are still waiting for it. So this is actually probably a bigger win than going through a whole trial.
And we've also got the longevity is still out there. It was heard by the DC Circuit Court of Appeals about 90 plus days ago, and from my bet is it would be another 90 days. So if it comes in sooner than that, that's great. If it comes in September 15th-ish, that's just the average turnaround for the DC Circuit Court of Appeals. So we're hoping it'll be sooner. We'd hope that it would come sooner than later. But that's just the way that we're reading it. There's no real set stone schedule for the release of a decision. So anything else that you can think of that we need to talk about?
No, just keep an eye out for some big news about the pension plan the next day or two.
And that'll come out. We'll get it out to you as soon as we can. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.